Today we'll be looking at grouped data in Python. Okay, we'll be learning how to group data in Python and work with grouped data in Python. Okay, so in Python there are a couple of ways you can group your data and work with grouped data. Okay, your data can either be a list, a tuple, or a dictionary. Your grouped data can be a list, a tuple, or a dictionary. And today we are going to learn how to work with each grouping type. Okay, at the end of the lesson, we should have understood what a list, tuple, or dictionary in Python is. We would create, access, and modify them. Understand when to use each data structure and apply them in simple data-related tasks. The first thing we'll look at is lists, probably because it's the one that is most used, right? I mean, the easiest to use. Okay, so lists are generally just grouped data that is enclosed in a square bracket. Okay, a square bracket, so you can have any data in here. You could have any wording in here. Okay, but as long as it is enclosed in square brackets, it is a list. Okay, and you assign it to your variable with your equal sign, right? So that you can refer to the list, the group data, with just one word, which is, in this case, is fruits. In lists in Python, you can access each unique data inside the lists with an index. Okay, so each data inside the grouped data has an index, its own assigned number. Okay, so in Python, indexing is, as I said, assigned number for each data. Okay, so we don't start the first count with 1. Okay, indexing in Python is started with 0. So your first data in here would be 0, second would be 1, and your third would be 2. Okay, because in indexing you start from 0. So our first element would be a 0 index, our second element would be a 1 index, and our third element would be a 2 index. Okay, so let's just run the first one to get in there. Okay, so when you're trying to access your elements inside your list, okay, as I said before, you use your index. Okay, so you first call for the variable, because we already know that with our grouped data we assigned a name to it, right? That's our variable name. In this case, it's fruits. Our square bracket, then the index the element has. Okay, so in this case, we want to call for fruits. We want to call for the first element in the list, fruit, right? So we write fruit, a square bracket, and 0, because the first element has the index of 0. Okay, so when we run this, we are supposed to get apple as our output. So let's run this. There we have apple as our output. So let me try to write an example. Okay, so for instance, we are still working with the variable name fruit. So if I should write fruit, our square brackets, fruits, our square brackets, and then this time I want to access the element mango, right? In this case, it has the index of 2, because indexing starts from 0 in Python. So 0 is apple, 1 is banana, and 2 is supposed to be mango, right? So if I should put the index of 2 inside the square brackets and run it, it should give me mango. Let's give it a minute. It takes a while sometimes. Then mango, right? Let's try and modify. Okay, modify one of these elements. Okay, so we are going to try to change the elements, one of the elements we have here. Okay, in lists, we say lists are mutable in the sense that we can change an element in here. You understand the purpose later on. Okay, so we want to change banana to orange. Okay, so as usual, you have to make reference to the variable name because we have stored the list in a variable. So fruits as the variable name, our square brackets, then the elements we want to change, the index of the elements we want to change. In this case, we are going to be changing banana to orange. Yeah, and we know that when you are checking for your index, you start counting from 0. Okay, so 0, 1. So banana has the index of 1, and we'll put 1 in here, and then we'll use the equal sign to assign a new element to banana. Okay, so we've accessed this particular element in fruits, in the list fruits, because we have used fruits as square brackets and 1, which is this particular element, banana. We use equal sign to assign a new element to it. So our equal sign, and we are assigning orange to it now. So when I run this, and then sorry, I keep doing that, and I try to access that particular element 1, it should give me orange now because we just changed it. Yeah, see, we have orange. So when you are changing or modifying a particular element, it's not difficult. You first have to access the element by using the variable name and the index, right, to access it, and use your equal sign to assign a new element to it, whatever new element you want to put in place of the already existing element. You write it after your equal sign. Okay, so let's try adding on to the already existing elements. Okay, so right now we have 3 elements, so we want to have 4 elements within the list fruits, right? So we are going to use the command append. Okay, it's a method. I think it's a method, right? We're going to be using append to add on a new element to the already existing count of elements that we have in list fruits. So we use the variable name because that's the name we use to save the list, the elements in the list. So we use fruits dot and the command append. Okay, with your brackets and the particular element you want to add into the already existing list. Okay, so fruits dot append your curly brackets, then your the elements you want to add onto the list. Okay, so if I should run this and try and access the whole list again, I should get 4 elements. I should get 4 elements. 1, 2, 3, 4, because we've added on grape. Okay, let's try and add on a new element. Let's add on banku, because I like local food. So we'll start with a variable name fruits, because we are trying to access that particular list. Okay, we are trying to add on to that list, so we have to make reference to the variable name, then dot append, but this is the command you are going to be using to add on a new element to the already existing element. And since I'm going to be adding on a string, I need my quotations. And let's write kiwi, because we already said we should write that, right? And if we should run this and try and access fruits again, we should have an extra element in there. So now we have 5 elements, right? Okay, so let's move on and try to remove an element from our new list, the new created list. You use .remove command to just remove an element from your list. So you just write the element you want to take out in your parentheses. It's just as easy as that. You use the word remove to remove an element from your list. So if you should run it and access fruits once again, mango should have disappeared. And then we no more have mango in here. We have 4 elements. Now let's try to remove kiwi, right? So let me just delete everything. So we have fruits dot remove our quotes, because we are going to be writing a string in the word kiwi. If I should run it and print out fruits again, kiwi is gone. Okay, so we're going to start to slice our list. Okay, slicing is like chopping up your list into smaller lists, so you can reduce the size of a list to just the portion that you want to use. So you limit it to particular index. Okay, so you definitely have to go for your variable name, because that's how you're going to access the particular list. Okay, so you're going to be using fruits because that's the variable name for the list we are using. Our square brackets, as we used to access elements within our list, and then the index of the elements you want to access. Okay, you want to print out. Okay, by this time we're going to be using a range because we want to slice it up, right? You want to limit it to a particular group of elements and not the whole list of elements. So we are going to be using a semicolon, a colon, right? This is our colon to restrict it to just a group of elements. Okay, so we'll have a starting element to be element with the index of 0, and the ending element to be the element with the index of 2. Okay. Let's run this. And we have apple and orange. Okay. Okay, so I left a practice test thing here for you to try it out. I'm currently using Google Colab for this tutorial because it's like open source and it's easy to access. So you can just go and type into your search engine, any search engine you're using, Google Colab, right? And you should be able to access this notebook. I'm empty notebook, of course, but I'll be linking this particular notebook down in the description, so you can just upload it and start working on this assignment. Okay, let's move on to tuples. Okay, so tuples are used when you don't want your data to be changed. Okay, previously we could modify our data, right? So we could just go in there and change an element or add on an element. You could play around with lists as much as you want. But with tuples, when you don't want your data to be changed at all, okay, so it's important data that should not be messed with, use tuples. Okay, it's very restricting, so you can't just go on in there and then be changing things. You can access the elements in there, you can print them out to see what you have stored in a particular variable, right? But you cannot change what is there. Okay, so we are going to try to create a tuple. Okay, I would say what differentiates a tuple from a list would be that a list uses square brackets and a tuple uses parentheses, right? So we'll have our variable name. In this case, is dimensions. We have our equal sign to assign whatever is on the right to the left. In this case, we're going to be using random numbers that we don't want to change here. So we have two numbers in here separated by a comma. Okay, and if we should run this, let's just run this into the system and should print one element out, be able to print it out, right? But if we should try to change it, we should run into an error there. Right? It's printed an error because it's a tuple. Okay, you cannot change the elements within a tuple. Okay. When you're trying to access an element in a tuple, as I said, it's kind of the same as lists. Okay, so you just have your variable name, your square brackets, and then the index you want to access. Okay. Only difference is that tuples have parentheses instead of square brackets, and tuples cannot be modified. Okay, so let's move on to dictionaries. Okay, so what makes dictionaries so different from the rest? Okay, as you can see, dictionaries use curly brackets. Okay, and it doesn't follow the same conventions as the first two grouping types. Okay, it doesn't use indexes, it uses keys. Okay, it has a key value pair. Okay, so instead of having to count your index to know which particular index your element has, you can just call for a key. Okay, it's kind of like a mini variable for a particular, just one element, like an element has its own variable name. So you access that variable you access that value with a particular variable. In this case, it's called a key. Okay, so the value and the key, so it's called a key value pair. Okay, so we have our curly brackets because it's a dictionary, our key on the left, a colon, and then the value on the right. Okay, and then each element, each value, key value pair is separated by a comma. Okay, let's run this. Let's have it in the working environment. And let's move on to trying to access elements in our dictionary. As I said, dictionaries are a little bit different from the other two. Okay, if you are trying to access elements within your dictionary, you use your key instead of your index. Okay, and the key is on the left, your value is on the right. Okay, so in this case, name is the key and Matilda is the value. Okay, age is the key and 25 is the value. Language is the key and Python is the value. Okay, so instead of using the variable name, your square brackets, and then your index, in dictionaries you use the variable name, your square brackets, and then your key. Okay, so instead of writing your index in there, you write your key in your square brackets. So if we should run this, it should give us Matilda's output. We have Matilda right here. Okay. And with dictionaries can be modified. Okay, unlike tuples, lists and dictionaries can be modified. Okay. So if we should try and modify a dictionary, it's not too different from a list. Okay. The only difference is the key and the index. Okay, so we'll definitely use our variable name because that's the dictionary we are using, right? That's the dictionary we stored. So we use that variable name, this case person, our square brackets as usual, right? And instead of using an index, we'll use the key, in this case, which is age. And then we're going to be using an equal sign to assign a new variable to the key age. Okay, previously the key age had a variable of 25, had a value of 25. Now we're going to change that value to 26. Okay, so if I should run this and try and access person again, the age is now 26. Okay, if I try to access particularly just age, I should still get just 26. Okay, when you're trying to delete a key value pair, you use the word del. Okay, like delete, so like a short form del, DAL. Okay, so you have your variable name, your square brackets as usual, and then the key right in your square brackets so that you can access that particular key value pair. Then you put the command del in front of it to delete it. Okay, so if you should run this and then try to access our person again, person dictionary again, run it, it should be gone, right? There's no language key value pair anymore. Okay, now let's another practice test underneath here for you, so you can just go in there and try it out. If you're having any difficulties, you can just let me know in the comments, or if you have any particular requests on what you want to learn about data analysis with Python, you can just let me know in the comments. So yeah, today we learned about lists, tuples, and dictionaries. And yeah, there's this thing I wanted to mention with slicing. When you're slicing your lists, right, your last index, okay, it's not added to the list of like the outputs you are going to get. So in this case, when we printed fruits with the limit from the first to the second element, right, from the first, the second index, the second index itself will not be printed. Okay, so it's like its first is 0, 1, but 2 is not added. Okay, so if we could have written 3 here, right, and run it, and we'll have 0, 1, 2. Okay, so we have 3 elements in here, right, starting from the index of 0 to 2, excluding the index 3. Okay, so you have to have that in mind, that the last index, the ending index you put in your square brackets, will not be included in your output. Okay, so that's it for today. If you like what I teach, go on and subscribe so that you don't miss any lesson. And yeah, you can always reach out to me using the links in my bio. I will be linking the learning materials as usual in the description, so you can just go in there and download what you need for this lesson. Thank you for watching. Bye.